Okay, today we're going to be doing lecture 26, which is writing lines given slope and a point. So the first thing I wanted to give you guys is the slope-intercept form. So we're going to be working with the slope-intercept form today. And if you remember from last week, that is y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b, right? So the y and the x are variables. The y and the x are going to be variables. We'll get to those later. But the two things that you do need to know is the m stands for slope. The m is going to stand for slope. And the b is going to stand for the y-intercept. The y-intercept. So those are the two numbers that you need to know. And today what's going to happen is you'll see questions where they'll give you the slope and they'll give you a point, and then they'll say, okay, given all this information that we've given you, can you write your answer in the form y equals mx plus b? So let's look at the first one on the problem set. Let's look at the first one. The first one I want to do is number 2. 2 says the line is going to pass through the point -2, +5. So this is the point that they give you. And remember, the x-coordinate always comes first when you're doing these. So the x-coordinate is always going to be on the left side, and the y-coordinate is always going to be on the right side. So I'm going to label the 5 with a y. Okay? So that's the point that they give you. And then they're going to give you the slope. The slope is -2 for this one. So they tell you the slope and they tell you a point. And then they say, okay, go for it, right? And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be plugging these 3 numbers into the top formula right here. So let's try this. I've got y equals mx plus b. And this is my slope-intercept form of a line. So they tell us what the slope is, right? The slope is going to be -2. That's going to be my m. Remember, m is going to stand for slope. So I'm going to plug in -2 for m. So I'm going to get y equals -2x plus b. So the only thing that's changed is I've replaced m with a -2. That's it. All right? That's all I've done so far. And now I'm going to take this x number and this y number and plug them in. So I know that y is 5. So I can replace y with a 5. -2. And similarly, I know that x is also going to be -2, right? Because that's the point that they give me. So I'm going to replace the x with a -2. So I plug that in for x, and they don't give me b, which is fine. I don't need it right now, but we're going to get it later. They don't give me b. So we're actually going to be solving for b at the very end. Okay? So I plugged in all I can, and now I just kind of simplify a little bit, right? I know that -2 times -2 is going to give me +4. +4. And then I bring down my plus b. So now I've got this equation where I can solve for b if I wanted to, right? All I would have to do is get b by itself. So how do I get b by itself? I've got to get rid of that 4. Well, how do I get rid of a +4? You're going to subtract 4, right? So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides and just see what happens. So that's all I'm doing right now. The b is going to come down. The 4 and the -4 are going to cancel each other out. So I can do this. And then I bring down my equal sign. Over here, 5 minus 4 is 1. So now I know what b is. My b is going to be 1. I'll go ahead and circle that. I know that b is going to be 1 this time. And I know that my slope is -2. I'm going to circle that at the top. So now I have enough information to write the y equals mx plus b. So when I write out my slope-intercept form, all I need are those two numbers that I circled, the -2 and the +1. So I'm going to get y equals -2x plus 1. And that's my answer. Y equals -2x plus 1. So all I'm doing is I'm starting off with y equals mx plus b because that's the formula that you're given. And they tell you all this information, and then all you have to do is take it all and plug it in. And then you got it. Let's look at the next one. I want to look at number 4. Okay, so number 4 says the line is going to pass through the point -5, +2. So this is kind of like a mirror image of what we just did, right? It's just the numbers are different for the x and the y. And I know that my slope is going to be what? They actually give me a fraction this time. They give me -3/5 or -3/5. So that's what I'm given. And I know that I'm trying to put it in slope-intercept form. So I need the y equals mx plus b, like usual. I haven't plugged anything in yet, but I'm about to, right? Because they give me 3 pieces of information: the x, the y, and the m. They just give those to me for free. So the y is going to be 2. So I'm going to plug in 2 for y. I know that m is going to be -3/5. So I plug that in, -3/5 times x. What is x? X is -5. And plus b. What is b? Well, they don't tell me because we're going to figure that out. Okay. So now I simplify all I can. I know that the 5 at the bottom is going to cancel out with the 5 at the top. So I can cross through these. So now I have a -3. That's just going to be a +3. So I get 2 equals 3 plus b. 2 equals 3 plus b. Okay? So now can we figure out what b is? Yes, we have enough information to do that. So what I'm going to do to get b by itself is I can get rid of this +3. And the way I'm going to get rid of a +3 is I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, right? So I do it on both sides. Make sure you do it on both sides of the equal sign. The 3 and the -3 are going to cancel out. And then 2 minus 3 is going to be -1. Good. So now I know what b is. B is going to be -1. I'm going to circle that. And I know what m is. It's all the way up here. I circle that. And now I put it in this y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to get y equals -3/5 x plus -1, but I'm just going to write that as -1. But they're the same answer, basically. So y equals -3/5 x minus 1. And I'll leave that up there for a little while so you guys can get that. Okay, so those are the first 2 problems that I wanted to do. Now what I want to do is I want to confirm my answers by graphing. Now, the way you can check your answers is you can go to Desmos, and it's basically a free online graphing calculator. And you can basically plug in that y equals equation that you just found, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Desmos right here, okay? So what you'll see right here is you have an input side and you have an output side. The input is always going to be on the left, so you can type in whatever you want over here on the left side, And then on the right side over here, you'll get the graph of whatever you just typed in. So my line was y equals negative 3 over 5 x minus 1. And I get this line right here. So I'm going to zoom in on it, and this line has a negative slope. It has a negative slope, right? Because it's going down as you go from left to right. So the slope is going to be a negative number. And in this case, it's negative 3 over 5. So that's going to be the slope for this line. Also, where does it cross the y-axis? That's the y-intercept, right? It's going to be negative 1. So that's where you get the negative 1 at the end of this from. That's the y-intercept, basically. That's just where it crosses the y-axis. And where does it cross the x-axis? It crosses at this decimal right here, okay? Not that important so far. But we did say that the line is going to cross through what point? They give us the point negative 5 comma 2. So where is negative 5 comma 2? Well, if I don't know where it is, I can actually go to the left side and just type it in, right? So what point did the line go through? It's going through the point, and let me get my parentheses going. It's negative 5 for the x coordinate, and for the y coordinate, it's going to be positive 2. I think that's what they gave us. And then I close it up. Okay, so this is going to show up as a red dot. The red point is going to show up on the graph, and the line does go through it. So if they give you a point and they give you the slope, you should be able to write out the formula for that line, okay? So let's go back to the paper. How do I do that? There we go. Awesome. So those are the first two problems that I wanted to do. And then maybe we'll do two more, and then I'll show you what your homework is going to look like, okay? All right. The next one I want to do is kind of different. It's going to be number 6. So for number 6, this line is going to go through the points negative 4, negative 2. Negative 4, negative 2. And the slope is actually going to be 0 this time. So think about that. What does that mean? What does it mean to have a slope of 0? What is that line going to look like? Okay, I'll let you think about that. All right, so while you're thinking about that, I'm going to write out the slope-intercept form for the line. And the slope-intercept form is going to be y equals mx plus b, as always. All right. So I know what my x is going to be. My x is going to be negative 4. I know what my y is going to be. It's going to be negative 2. And my m is always the slope. That's going to be 0 this time. So I know for a fact that m is going to be 0, right? Okay, so now I just plug in. My y is going to be negative 2 equals m is 0, so I plug that in. My x is going to be negative 4, and then plus b. And they don't tell me what b is. They never do. I wish they would tell me, though. That would make it a whole lot easier. So now I've got something that I can simplify a little bit, right? I've got 0 times negative 4. That's going to give me 0, right? And then everything else stays the same. The negative 2 comes down, the plus b comes down, and that's pretty much it for this step. Now the last step is to get b by itself. And the way I do that is I've got to get rid of 0. And you could subtract 0 from both sides, or you can add 0 to both sides, because it really doesn't matter. It's 0. All right, so these cancel out. Negative 2 minus 0 is still going to give me negative 2. So now I know what the y-intercept is. It's going to be negative 2. So I'm going to circle that. So I circle the y-intercept, and I also want to circle the slope because that's the other piece of information that I need. And now, once you know these two numbers, you can just plug them into the slope-intercept formula. So I'm going to get y equals 0x minus 2. 0x minus 2. Now, if you know that anything times 0 is 0, then you can pretty much rest assured that 0x is just going to be 0. So this is actually going to simplify down a little bit into 0 minus 2. All I did was I replaced 0x with 0. And I know that 0 minus 2 is the same thing as negative 2. So really, this is the formula that I want. Y equals negative 2. Okay? So that's going to be my answer. Y equals negative 2. Now let's graph that. Let's go over to Desmos and see if it actually works. Let's see. There we go. I can get rid of everything over here by hitting the X's, so they're gone. Now, the formula that I got was y equals negative 2, so I'm going to plug that in. Y equals negative 2. And my line is completely flat. So did you get that? When I asked you what the slope of 0 means, did you understand, oh, it's going to be a flat line or a horizontal line? That's the point of having slope of 0. The line is completely flat. It doesn't have a slope to it at all. Okay? And now I type in my point, which was negative 4, negative 2. So negative 4, comma, negative 2, close up the set of parentheses, and it should be a green dot this time. Where is it? I can't see it, so I'm going to zoom out. There it is. See it over here? That's the green dot that I was looking for. So this is negative 4, negative 2. And the line does go through it. That's what we're looking for. The line has to go through the point that they give us. Okay. So that's that one. Let's go on back to the paper. And let's do one more. Let's do number 8. Okay. So number 8 says the line is going to pass through the points negative 4, negative 5. And the slope is going to be 6. So if the slope is 6, I know right offhand that the slope is going to be pretty high. So the line is going to be kind of steep, right? It's still going to be a positive slope, but it's going to be a kind of steep line. So let me get my y equals mx plus b going. Y equals mx plus b. It tells me what m is. That's going to be 6. It tells me what x is. That's going to be negative 4. And it tells me what y is, right? The negative 5 right here. So now I have enough information to plug in and find out what b is, the y-intercept. So y is going to be negative 5. The m is going to be 6. The x is going to be negative 4, right? Negative 4. And then plus b. We'll figure out what that is later. Okay, so now I multiply. I get negative 5 is equal to 6 times negative 4. That would be negative 24. And then I bring down the plus b. So now to get b by itself, what I would have to do is I would have to get rid of this negative 24. So how do I get rid of a negative number? I would just have to add the positive of it, basically. So we're going to add 24 to both sides. So I hope that makes sense. We're going to add 24 to both sides. So that way, when we add 24 to both sides, the positive 24 and the negative 24 are going to cancel out to give me 0. But since it's 0, I don't need to write that. All I need to do is just bring down the b. And then over here, I get 24 plus negative 5. That would be 19. So now I know what b is. B is going to be 19. That's the y-intercept. And I know that the slope is 6. That's going to be my m up here. Now I have enough information to write the equation of my line. So I'm going to get y equals mx, so that would be 6x. So the slope is going to be 6, and the y-intercept is going to be 19. So y equals 6x plus 19. I will put that in a box. Okay. Man, my pen is running today. But anyways, you get the point of it. You're basically plugging in everything that they give you. Now, let's take a look at the line on Desmos and see what it looks like. This is a really good way to check your answer. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to get rid of everything that's on the left side, and I'm starting over fresh. So my y is going to be 6x plus 19. Okay, that's my purple line. And my point is going to be -4, -5. So -4, comma, -5. There we go. Got it. And that's going to be that black point at the bottom right here. -4, -5. And the line does go through it. So see how steep the line is? That's because my slope is a large positive number. It's going to be 6. I know that doesn't really sound like such a large number, but when you actually start graphing these things, you start to see how the line looks once you graph it. So the slope is always going to be the number in front of the x, and the y-intercept is always going to be the number tacked on to the end. So I'm going to get rid of all this, and I'm going to type in y equals mx plus b, just the formula for the slope-intercept form. And what you'll see right here is I can add sliders. So I'm going to add all the sliders that I can. All right. So right now I've got m equals 1 and b equals 1. Now I can hit the play button over here. And when I hit that button, what's going to happen is the m is going to start to vary between 10 and -10. So as the slope gets very negative, the line starts to get very steep in the negative direction. But once the end gets very positive, it's going to start getting very steep in the positive direction. And when m is 0, it's going to go completely flat. So let me see if I can stop it at 0. Let's see. Here. I almost got it. But I can just type in 0, so it doesn't matter. There we go. -0. I don't need the negative. All right, perfect. So now my line is completely flat. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the play button on the B. And what that's going to do is it's going to change the y-intercept. So all that's going to do is it's going to change where the line crosses the y-axis. So I'm going to hit the play button on this, and notice what happens. Line goes up to 10, and then it goes down to -10. But it does come back. All right, I'm gonna see if I can stop it at 0. Okay, now, that's close. So B is gonna be 0. Good. So now I get this flat line at y equals 0. So that's just playing around with lines. The slope is gonna be a number. It's just going to be a number, right? And the y-intercept, that's also going to be a number.